just to link it to what all the panel speakers have been talking about, just to round up the talks, I suppose, before we take a refreshments break and then we have our question answer panel. I just want to relay to you two incidents and two, I guess, events or activities that IDC Northeast has been doing over the last few weeks. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, IDC Northeast was invited to Middlesbrough, to a mosque in Middlesbrough, the Abu Bakr Mosque in Middlesbrough, to help coordinate over 3 days a school visit from a school in Whitby. Now, Whitby is very much a sort of 99% white area where they don't have any interaction or very little interaction with people of other ethnicities and religions. So when we were invited to go and help with that school visit, we normally do school visits and mosque visits as part of as part of our services. We happily obliged. 165 school pupils coming to the mosque over 3 days, with around 60 adults, that's teachers and parents, coming to visit the mosque. Now, when we started on the Monday, we do our normal routine, the hospitality, the tour of the mosque, the discussion with the children, fun and games, and then we had an adult session towards the end of it. Now, in the adult session, that's where I coordinate. It was a small group, there's about 15 people each day, 15 or 20 people each day. And some of the things that we were discussing, now this was, the speakers have talked about that safe space, where the parents and teachers were allowed to discuss and talk about anything they wanted about Islam, Muslims, the mosque, what they've witnessed, and so on and so forth. Now, some of the things that we were discussing included why some of the parents did not allow their children to come to the mosque visit. And some of the things that they were talking about were, and they have a Facebook page where they were having parents were arguing with each other on the school Facebook page, about why they should or shouldn't send their children to the mosque for the mosque visit. Things like, well, we're not going to send our kids to the mosque because they'll get blown up there, right? Or we're not going to send our kids to the mosque visit, an educational trip, because they'll come back brainwashed. You know, there were so many discussions like this. And after the first day, the kids had so much fun and they learnt so much. And that session that I had with the adults, we allayed many of their fears. And in fact, some of the parents on the first day said, you know, we were wrong to have some of those opinions and viewpoints, because all we've seen from you is the best hospitality, the best manners that we've ever seen in our community for a long time, and you've really taken care of us and removed many of the misconceptions that we had in that open discussion, that safe space where we could talk. Let's put it this way, by the following day, kids who were not allowed to come to the mosque visit were literally crying in the school because their friends had gone and they'd had such a good time and they'd learnt so much, and then they were, you know, it's that peer group pressure, I guess. And the teachers were phoning up the parents in the morning before the bus left, saying, you know, we can't control your child. He's just crying and crying and crying. Are you sure you don't want to let him come? All his friends are going, and some of his friends have been. Thankfully, some of the parents changed their mind and said, yeah, okay, let him or her go. And in fact, on day 3, the parents that were profusely against the mosque visit came as well on day 3, because the other parents were, from day 1 and 2, were clarifying the misconceptions on our behalf, what was really happening in the mosque and what Islam is really about. By day 3, we had this is what IDC Northeast is really about. We're in the business of changing perceptions. And by day 3, those parents had come, and one of those parents who was against, you know, coming to the mosque visit and mixing with Muslims and learning about Islam, at the end literally had a tear in her eye. She was crying, and she said, you know, I wish everyone in our society were like you, meaning the Muslims, because of the way that we, you know, had respected them, the way that we had interacted with them, and really, like I always say, the way that we humanized Islam. So that's one event that took place, and this is where, you know, that interaction, that education, that talking, that opening up, that discussion is all about. Changing those perceptions about what the reality of the situation is. The second event happened, you know, just this Saturday gone. We sent a team from IDC Northeast down to Leicester to help support some of the Muslims in Leicester. Now, since the Woolwich attack, the Woolwich incident, there is a mosque, a very small mosque called the Peace Centre in Thurnby Lodge in Leicester, which is, again, a very much a white area. There's hardly any Muslims or people of any other ethnicity there. And these very small group of Muslims in this mosque has not only been attacked, but there's been flash demonstrations since the Woolwich attack almost every single night by the far right, including the EDL, outside that very small mosque, and intimidation towards those worshippers that go to the mosque. Abuse, physical and verbal. And there's been a lot of tensions on both sides, from the Muslim community, that small Muslim community, and the far right, who have been influencing some of the residents in that area. So when we were invited and asked, can you go and help, can we send a team down to, there's a carnival on the Saturday, last Saturday just gone, and we're going to have a stall, we're going to, as in the Muslims, we're talking about we, the Muslims, we're going to have a stall there, that was the local Muslim residents in Leicester, and we're going to be fundraising for Age UK at this carnival. And we want to try and, you know, have some interaction with the wider community to try and allay some of the fears, challenge some of the stereotypes, and remove some of the misconceptions that people have, especially the local residents, about Islam and the Muslims. So when the team went, they had a briefing session in the morning. They went out to the store, put on all their T-shirts, started fundraising for Age UK, and, you know, started presenting Islam in its authentic format, if you like. What happened was, on the field, you literally had the stalls on one side where the Muslims were at, no man's land in the middle, a whole bit of green, and then you had the far right in EDL standing. It's almost like a face-off. They were just, you know, staring each other out almost. And no one wanted to make the first move. No one wanted to discuss or open up a discussion. And it was getting quite tense. So what some of the IDC team did was, very brave of them to do so, they went over, one of the guys went over to the EDL side with his bucket for Age UK and started, you know, opening up a conversation. At first, for the first, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes, all he received was complete abuse. And I mean, when I say abuse, I'm talking about, you know, more than go and F off back to your own country. We're talking about being called a paedophile, being called all sorts of disgusting things, and they weren't even willing to listen. Then shortly after, another member went over and started to discuss with them, shared some food with them, wanted to ask if they would like to raise some more, to help raise funds for Age UK. And then after a short while, one by one, they'd managed to almost separate them from the group and have a discussion with them and get to the real issue of what is the problem here. And by the end of the day, by the end of the afternoon, all of the EDL or the far right, except for one person, all the rest of the group had changed their perceptions about the Muslims that they were dealing with. And in fact, took a nice little photo with them, right, to say that, you know, we were wrong and maybe we shouldn't have jumped to some of those conclusions that we had and had some of those perceptions. Now, it's not to say they've changed completely and they've changed people, but the point I'm making was the first steps towards that discussion, engagement, and trying to change those perceptions on both sides. Yeah, so they're two events that I wanted to share with you that the IDC Northeast has been directly involved in over the last month or so. So I want to leave it on that, just to think about those issues of interactions. I want you to think about some of the questions that you want to put to our panel while you go and get your teas and coffees. We'll take a 5-minute tea and coffee break. Help yourselves to tea and coffee and refreshments. We'll come back, have your questions ready, either on paper, we'll have the roaming mic going round, and of course we have the text number. Yeah? Okay.